This hole in the sand can be more dangerous than a shark. It sounds ridiculous, until you realize deep sand holes have killed people while everyone else was busy worrying about what's swimming offshore. The beach looks peaceful, but it hides some surprisingly nasty traps right under your feet. Today, we're breaking down the everyday beach hazards that can turn a relaxing summer afternoon into an ER visit right here on Simple but Surprising. Over the last 27 years in the US, sharks have been responsible for 25 deaths, averaging less than one per year. Meanwhile, sand holes, often appearing harmless, claimed roughly 20 lives in just the past decade alone. Take the tragedy in February 2024. A 7-year-old girl lost her life after a 5-foot hole suddenly caved in. People think they're just digging a spot to chill, but in reality, they might be digging a grave. The danger comes from a misunderstanding of what sand actually is. It isn't a solid structure, it's a measurement of grain size. A single cubic foot of quartz sand can weigh 90 pounds, and that weight climbs even higher if it's a mixed variety. Wet sand acts like a perfect glue, but as it dries, that stability vanishes. Stepping into a deep hole in dry sand is essentially an invitation for disaster. It isn't just about getting stuck. A single cubic meter of sand can weigh as much as a compact car, and when it caves in, all that mass is instantly pressing against a person's chest. It isn't just an accident, it's a localized landslide that buries and crushes its victim in the blink of an eye. In that situation, there is a tiny window of only 3 to 5 minutes to act. The fatal mistake most people make is trying to dig the victim out entirely. The sand just keeps sliding back, wasting precious seconds. The golden rule is to clear the mouth and nose first, so they can get oxygen immediately. To avoid this nightmare altogether, remember this limit. Never dig deeper than the knees of the shortest person in the group, and always fill the hole before heading home. Don't let a fun afternoon become a tragedy for the next family on the beach. Imagine relaxing in the shade, unaware that right above your head sits a multi-pound spear just waiting for a gust of wind to take off. A beach umbrella looks innocent enough, but if it's anchored shallowly, a strong breeze can rip it from the sand and turn it into a high-speed projectile. The statistics are actually pretty shocking. According to the CPSC, roughly 300 Americans end up in the ER every year because of these flying umbrellas. It's rarely just a minor scratch. These incidents involve broken bones, head trauma, and even impalement. In 2016, a woman at Virginia Beach was killed when a stray umbrella struck her in the chest. Similar tragedies continue to happen on coastlines from South Carolina to Florida. The difference between a peaceful afternoon and a medical emergency often comes down to one thing: whether that umbrella is secured deep in the sand or ready to become a deadly weapon. But don't just look up. While you're busy dodging spears in the sky, you're leaving yourself wide open to the biological landmines hiding right under your feet. In the warm, shallow waters of California or the Gulf Coast, stingrays may be hiding exactly where people love to wade. They aren't aggressive predators looking for a fight, they're masters of camouflage that just want to be left alone. They bury themselves in the sand, turning their venomous, barbed tails into a passive defense system. This isn't just some minor cut or scrape. A stingray barb can cause immediate, sharp pain and intense swelling, often sending someone straight to the lifeguard station for a long soak in hot water. The best move is something locals call the stingray shuffle. Instead of stepping straight down, slide your feet through the sand as you walk. That little vibration gives the stingray a warning and usually sends it gliding away before your foot lands on its back. It's nature's version of a home security system. The stingray doesn't need to chase anyone down. If a person steps into its space without warning, the price can be a very painful few days. Think of a rip current as a powerful, hidden force moving just under the surface with one goal: dragging everything from the shoreline straight out to sea. It can reach speeds of 5 miles per hour, fast enough to outrun even an Olympic swimmer. In the US, these currents claim over 100 lives every year and account for 80% of all beach rescues. They aren't picky about location either. From Mexico to Australia, if there are waves, there's a risk. They're usually at their worst when the surf is big, but they also love to hide around river mouths, piers, or jetties. To spot one, keep an eye out for patches of water that look off. Paradoxically, a rip current often looks like a calm, flat gap between breaking waves. It's the deceptively smooth water that people mistake for a safe place to swim. You might also notice water that is discolored from stirred up sand, or a line of foam and seaweed moving steadily away from the shore. The fatal mistake that turns a scary situation into a tragedy is the desperate urge to swim straight back to the beach. Fighting a rip current is just as hopeless as trying to sprint up a down escalator set to max speed. You will exhaust yourself long before the ocean even gets tired. The key is to stay calm and swim parallel to the shore to break free from the current's narrow path. Once you're out of the pull, swim at an angle toward the breaking waves to get back in. If you start to feel gapped, just float and wave for help. In the end, it's usually not the water that takes a life, it's the energy wasted fighting something infinitely more powerful. Most waves break far out at sea, but shorebreaks are different. They wait until the last possible second to land, their full force directly onto the dry sand. Don't let their size fool you. Getting caught in one of these isn't like a fun splash in the surf. It's more like being blindsided by a car. This is the main culprit behind the most devastating neck and spinal injuries at the beach, often happening in water that looks shallow enough for a toddler. In Hawaii, places like Sandy Beach or Keiki Beach are legendary for this. Even the pros, guys who spend their entire lives charging 50-foot monsters at Jaws, will stand on the sand at Keiki, watch the shore break for 20 minutes, and think, maybe not today. They know that even in waist-deep water, the ocean can slam you into the sand with enough torque to change your life in a split second. The number one rule for these conditions is simple. Never, ever turn your back on the ocean. If the waves are hitting the sand with a heavy thud, stay within sight of a lifeguard, or better yet, stay on your towel and enjoy the view from a distance. From a distance, jellyfish look like harmless blobs of jello drifting with the tide. You almost want to poke them. Don't. In reality, they're covered in thousands of microscopic needles just waiting for a reason to light you up. For most species, a sting is just a miserable afternoon of red welts and a burning sensation. But then you have the Portuguese man-o-war. Found all over Florida and Texas, this thing isn't even a true jellyfish. It's a collective of organisms that basically teamed up to be the ultimate beach bully. With tentacles that can stretch up to 100 feet, it can snag you from a distance before you even realize you're not alone in the water. Stepping on one, washed up on the beach, that's a jolt of pure electricity that'll make the hotel pool look like paradise. The worst part? They're just as petty when they're dead. Their stinging cells don't need a brain to fire. They work like a preset trap, just waiting for a barefoot tourist to step on them. If you see that purple flag on the lifeguard tower, take the hint and stay on your towel. But if the man-o-war is a long-range nightmare, the box jellyfish is a total phantom. These sea wasps, found in Australia and the Indo-Pacific, are experts at hiding in plain sight. They still have that classic bell shape, looking like a clear glass bowl floating upside down, but with slightly squared off edges. Because they are almost invisible, you won't see a box. You'll just see nothing until it's too late. A sting from one of these is a direct assault on your heart. It's powerful enough to cause cardiac arrest in minutes, proving that in the ocean, it's the things you don't notice that end up being the biggest problem. Sometimes, the thing that ruins a beach trip isn't a sudden storm, it's a bloom of toxic algae taking over the shoreline. But don't be fooled, that reddish or murky water isn't just ugly or smelly, it can be a sign of a harmful algal bloom. When red tide hits, the ocean essentially launches a large-scale chemical attack on both marine life and humans. This scenario plays out nearly every summer along Florida's Gulf Coast. These massive algal blooms can kill fish and contaminate filter-feeding shellfish like clams, mussels, oysters, and scallops. If anyone thinks boiling their catch makes it safe, that assumption can get dangerous fast. These toxins are heat-resistant, staying perfectly intact and waiting to shut down a person's system. Back in 1990, 6 fishermen in Cape Cod nearly lost their lives after eating a single meal of steamed mussels harvested from toxic waters. While swimming in these conditions might not land everyone in the hospital immediately, skin rashes and stinging eyes are a very annoying price to pay. There's a solid rule of thumb for staying safe. If dead fish are washing up on the sand, stay out of the water. That is Mother Nature's giant red warning sign that toxins are running the show. If someone accidentally makes contact and starts feeling off, the absolute priority is to find a freshwater shower and rinse off completely before things take a turn for the worse. And finally, sometimes the scariest threat is so small that the naked eye can't even see it. Meet Vibrio vulnificus, an organism with the chilling nickname flesh-eating bacteria. It lurks in warm saltwater or brackish environments above 68 degrees Fahrenheit, ranging from the US East Coast all the way down through the Gulf of Mexico. It's impossible to see or smell, but it's constantly waiting for the slightest opening. A microscopic scratch on a foot from a seashell, or even walking barefoot on the sand with a small, pre-existing cut, is all the invitation it needs to invade the body. Once it breaks through the skin's barrier, Vibrio doesn't just cause a standard infection, it aggressively destroys tissue, causing necrosis and sepsis at a terrifying speed. In the most serious cases, the only way to save a person's life is for surgeons to perform emergency procedures to remove infected tissue. But once those bacteria break into the bloodstream, the stakes become terrifyingly high. We're talking about a 50% mortality rate. Florida is currently the primary hotspot for this bacteria in the US. In 2024, the state recorded 74 cases and 13 deaths, a figure that spiked significantly following recent natural disasters. Again, sometimes, a single raw oyster or a minor scrape from a casual swim can become the start of a brutal, life-or-death race against time. At the end of the day, the beach remains the ultimate escape from the summer heat, as long as it isn't treated like a perfectly harmless playground. A little bit of awareness regarding the small things underfoot can be the difference between sleeping in a bed at home or a bed in the ER. If these simple but surprising facts helped you see the shoreline in a new light, hit that like button so this video can reach more people and keep them safe. On a side note, many beaches are now proposing heavy fines or even total bans on digging deep holes, labeling it a public safety hazard. So, what's the verdict? Is this a necessary move to save lives, or is it just over-regulation killing the simple freedom of a day at the beach? Drop a comment below. It'll be interesting to see which side wins this debate.